Good evening and welcome to Across the Pitch. We're the soccer show for people who think Las Vegas Lights is a song by Hootie and the Blowfish.
Is there a tumbleweed there? Where's that cricket sound you've got there? What is it? Was that when they decided to do some country and no one listened to them anymore?
No, that was off their 1998 musical Chairs album.
Yeah, well, I didn't listen to that either, so cool.
Well, I could have gone with something like, Las Vegas Lights or a hockey team because they've got the Golden Knights, or there's Las Vegas Knights, the 1941 movie. There's many things I could have gone with, but at the end of the day, what we're here to talk about is the Las Vegas Lights FC, who became the 19th consecutive victim of the
Yes,
Phoenix
it was lights out for Vegas Lights tonight, wasn't it? I mean, let's be honest, it wasn't a classic game, but they're just one of many that have fallen to the wayside of the famous Phoenix Rising on their incredible season run.
They're actually now they were the second team that Phoenix beat in the winning streak, and now the 19th. So 2 times they've beaten Vegas. They've beaten them by 4-0 back on May 18th. Now 1-0 tonight. So they didn't allow a goal against Vegas all season, and in fact, in five all-time games between Vegas and Phoenix now, Phoenix has 4 clean sheets. The other one, they allowed 5 goals, so,
And it was interesting tonight. I mean, yes, it was 1-0, and it was a clean sheet, and we saw the return of Karl Wazinski tonight.
And nobody beats him.
No one beats the Woz. Well, I mean, he sort of got put down to number 2, really, in the goalkeeping stakes here at Phoenix Rising. But he put in a solid performance tonight. And he wasn't the only one that got a run tonight. There was a bunch of other newcomers, weren't there, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly Woz is a guy who last season and even the season before that had really been a staple for Phoenix. At the beginning of this season, he got off to kind of a rough start, which honestly wasn't his fault.
No.
Because he was seeing about 8 shots on target in those first 3 games I think it was 23 shots on target in the first 3 games. Then Zach Lubin stepped in, and he's been fantastic.
Yes.
But he's also been seeing about 3.5 shots a game. So I think at the end of the day, tonight is just proof of what we said at the beginning of the season, is that Phoenix has 2 guys who would start in goal for any other team in the league.
True. I feel like maybe the commentators on the show, maybe they didn't call us out, us on the show individually, but they certainly had a go at the Phoenix Rising fans at the beginning of the season, didn't they? Because there were doubts about the system and Rick Shantz, and even was. I even said it on the show, all right? I'm on record as saying our strikers make the opposition goalkeepers look world-class. And you know what? I've managed to eat my hat with that, and I've got to say I'm quite happy about that because...
Well, I'm going to say that I'm on record as saying that Adam John was going to score 20 goals this year.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to some early episodes because I reckon I've pulled some things out of my ass as well, mate.
Well, I think, Aaron, you're on to a great point, man. I mean, here's the thing to remember. Start of the season, draw. 5th game of the season comes along. We get our first win. And then what happens? We go to Austin and lose. And there were a lot of us saying, hey, you know what? Maybe Shantz is a little bit out of his depth here. I mean, it doesn't get any better from that. Lost to Austin. We beat Tacoma, which as the season has played on, we realize beating Tacoma not that big of a thing. Then we draw Sacramento, then we lose to Orange County. We beat Rio Grande Valley. I mean, so there's all of these there was this fluctuation at the start of the year, and we were the ones saying, hey, Shantz might be out of his depth, but credit to the guy and the team. They stuck with it. They played through, and here we are sitting in September, second week of September, and the last time we dropped points was against Orange County.
May 4th.
Since then, 19 straight wins.
Oh, May 4th. Do we do like a Star Wars thing that night? May the 4th be with you, and off we went.
Yeah, it was just one of those things, And so here we are, and Shantz just got named coach of the month for August, USL, and you know what? It's just a matter of time before he's coach of the year.
Yeah, I mean, we probably said he was out of his league at the beginning of the season. On behalf of Across the Pitch crew, I would like to apologise to Rick Shantz. Rick, if you're listening, mate, you've made the league your own. Well done, Rising. I mean, even tonight we had, 6 players on that weren't starting last time, and the system looked good. We looked good in midfield. We probably weren't as sharp in attack, defensively solid. And I think those players, I think you called out Ledbetter last week, Matt, he had even stepped up his game tonight. I mean, he looked pretty damn good there on the right wing. The right back, I beg your pardon. It speaks volumes as to what he has done with the squad. And we're not just talking, just about, the top players like Asante there anchoring the side or whomever. It's a squad performance, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think you pointed out something great there, and that's about Ledbetter. On Saturday, playing San Antonio, he looked lost. He looked defeated. He looked absolutely gassed after 30 minutes. And whatever Shantz, talked with him about, some of the coaching they received yesterday Monday and Tuesday, really turned things around. And so he gave him another run out to go out and play that right back position and kind of solidify himself as the backup to Doumbouya. And he had a great game. He put in some dangerous crosses. There were some things he needs to work on. We talked about how, his through balls were too heavy a lot of the times.
Yeah.
But yeah, he stepped up in a big way. And then Bjornathan on the left, Dia's not in. He's been solid for us at the left back position. Bjornathan slots in there, and it kind of looked like him and whoever the winger was playing in front of him, as we saw Calistri and Jason Johnson switch sides a lot. Whoever was they looked like they had a good understanding of when to go forward, when to stay back. And so great overall. And, the commentators pointed out this was the first time that this back four had played together.
Right.
And you couldn't tell. I mean, they looked solid. The communication was there. And I think a lot of that has to do with Farrell coming in. Farrell seems to be a good organizer of the defense.
Definitely. And it's interesting that you point out that's the first time the back four have played together, because that was one of our big gripes at the beginning of the season as well, wasn't it? Because they kept shifting that back four about.
Right.
What can I say? The hands down masterclass in coaching. That's all I can say there.
Well, guys, I guess you could say that Ledbetter has leveled up to lead best.
Right. You got that Pokemon evolution going, huh?
Oh, there we go. I think he's probably got another level to get to.
Yeah.
I don't know what's beyond lead best. Lead great. That doesn't work.
Lead bester.
Phil, maybe you should speak to something we talked about before we hit record, and that was the fact that this is our third clean sheet now in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things, and I don't know if, how many folks that listen to the show read the articles that I put out before the Phoenix Rising games, but one thing that I had been concerned about and noted in those articles is that they had a 5-game stretch where they allowed 8 goals. Now, that night might not seem like a huge deal, but for a team like Phoenix that Zach Lubin, for instance, he's only allowed 17 goals in 24 starts. So that 8 and 5 games was actually 8 of the 17 goals that he allowed. So if you figure that in 19 games, he allowed 9 goals. And then in those 5 games, he allowed 8. So that was quite a jump in comparison. However, in the last 3 games, they've now turned things around, 3 clean sheets in a row. And then today they did that by bringing in Carl Wazinski, who hasn't really played a league game since April. I mean, I know that he was in the U.S. Open Cup game, but other than that,
Let's not talk about that.
he has not played a league game since April. Steps in tonight, not a drop off whatsoever in net. I mean, and this wasn't an easy game for him. He had to make some big saves to earn that clean sheet and get everybody those free Jackson's car washes tomorrow.
Yes. Thank God the monsoon hasn't been happening here in the southwest. But Phil, yes, I don't know. I don't think he actually had to make too many big saves, and that was because that 4 in front of him were just solid. Like, it was rare that they got past him. When they got past them, and when they did, it was pretty much straight down his throat. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think maybe once he was probably stretched. I don't really remember him panicking, if you will.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not necessarily trying to say that he was, having to stand on his head all night or anything like that. Las Vegas did have 3 shots on target. He made all 3 of those saves.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at. It wasn't a game where he stood back there that only saw 1 ball. 3 saves, or 3 shots on target. I would say that most of the time, 3 good efforts, maybe a team's going to get in 1 goal. He didn't allow any. So, I mean, to me, it's, he did his job and stopped the balls that came his way. I guess I'm not necessarily say that he saw 50 shots out there, but there were certainly ones that he had to make an effort to stop.
No, you're right, Phil. Absolutely spot on. But the back 5, including Woz tonight, they were excellent.
Yeah, I think the 2 big saves that Woz made were that header that was really poorly placed right at him, and then of course that free kick in stoppage time. So guys, we've kind of talked about the back line. We talked about Woz. Great game. Let's just go up the field from there, and let's talk midfield now. How did you guys feel about the midfield? We kind of saw, Beccaro injured, so Musa really steps in. What did you guys see tonight in this game that made you how did the midfield look to you guys?
Phil, if I can jump in here, I was pretty impressed by the midfield as well. I've seen in recent weeks, perhaps we've been a little soft in midfield, probably bypassing midfield, and certainly had a lot of turnovers there. Now, what I said to you tonight in our group chat while we're watching the game was that we seem to be a little bit more muscular tonight. And Matt, you pointed out that Musa was on there, and so was Calistri.
Right.
And it just seemed to sort of beef up that midfield there. So the midfield turnovers were, there were a few of them, but they weren't as obvious as previous weeks. But they also seem to be stepping up and breaking down those potential, breaks by Vegas. I thought they were pretty solid.
Yeah, I think just to offer a correction there, what it is Musa and Lambert, right?
Lambert.
We get 2 guys who are bigger. They're stepping into the midfield. More of that center defensive kind of destroyer role. When you talk about central or midfield defensive midfielders.
Yes.
And what was great is you see kind of their interchange a lot. So, in one spell of possession, Musa could kind of make his way forward and Lambert hangs back, but then they'll switch. And so that offers a little bit of confusion there to Las Vegas. They don't know who's going to step, who's going to drop. And so they're having to really react to what's going on instead of being proactive, which I think is is important. And then you got just two big bodies in there.
Yeah.
And Baccaro's a different, completely kind of midfielder, right? He kind of plays that regista, maybe the pivot is what we'd call it in central midfield, where the ball's going through him. He's going to drop back to the back four to pick it up, to turn and look to play the next pass. Whereas you kind of get that more physical presence with Lambert and Musa. And I thought they looked great tonight. Lambert has just been looking great this year. Musa, when he's comes on, been looking great.
Yeah.
I personally wish Musa would shoot some more from distance, because he can whip them in there.
He had an excellent shot just before halftime there, which sort of just curved in at the wrong point in the arc there, I guess, and it probably ended up probably about a foot to the right of the goalpost. But I mean that. Gee, that had everyone scrambling, really, didn't it? You could see Vegas going, "Oh crap, here we go!"
Especially those flailing arm guys you saw. They went scrambling. And Las Vegas Lights, I've got a new promotion for you. If you're gonna have the flailing arm guys behind the goal, anytime a player hits the flailing arm guys with the ball, some lucky fan at Cashman Field gets free tickets to see Carrot Top.
Jesus, so, no one's going to turn up.
So we've talked Lambert, Musa, Phil. What about Aguinaga? How did you think he fared tonight?
Well, I thought that the whole unit really worked well together for not having played together a lot. Aguinaga has just been so solid all season. I mean, he's a guy where if you look at, I believe he's on about 5 assists. So he's really been that facilitator, that he's the guy that he's as important on offense as he is on defense. He's a true midfielder. And what really impresses me is if you look at a 1-0 score, it doesn't necessarily look dominant. But when you go into the stats, and particularly the stats that are controlled by the midfield, it shows that Phoenix really did have a dominant performance. 60% percentage, 83% pass accuracy on 455 passes. Wow. But here's what really, really shows you how much Phoenix dominated, and also how much Phoenix's midfield actually prevented the Las Vegas attack from even advancing. Phoenix 10 corner kicks, Las Vegas 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I think what really impressed me about Aguinaga tonight is the way he was able to keep the ball under pressure from 2 or 3 guys.
Yes.
He could dribble around, he could hang on, he would draw the foul, and then that would really open the game up. And so that was super impressive from him. So let's just keep moving right up the pitch. Let's talk wingers, strikers, front three. So to start out, Jason Johnson returns to the starting lineup. Calistri slots in. We see those guys switch. And then, of course, Adam John up top. Later in the game, we see Flemings make his return from the Jamaican national team at halftime. And Solo makes an appearance sometime after the 80th minute. So talk about our top 3. Let's talk the starters first. What do you guys think?
Jason Johnson looks rusty.
Yeah.
He had a wonderful, wonderful bicycle overhead kick, which probably cleared the goal by a good 3 or 4 yards. But it was spectacular.
Was
it Lambert?
Yeah.
Was it really?
Well, they both actually hit one, but Lambert hit his in the box. Jason Johnson attempted one, and it went out for a goal kick. But
quite right.
I would agree with you. He did look rusty, but this is his second game back. I mean, he played 26 minutes, 24 minutes on Saturday. So he's just still finding his feet. And I think it's just a matter of time. I think what really stood out to me was the way Calistri and Johnson would switch. Because that's something that just confuses the defense. It confuses that back line. So that was great. And I thought Calistri played extremely well.
Adam John.
I was impressed with Adam John in the captain's role. This was his first time wearing the captain's badge, and he really, I thought he showed an ability where I saw him out there directing guys on the field, which is something he hasn't really been asked to do with Solo out there.
Right. Even after his goal, he was pointing out, hey, he was calling out marks and he was telling people where to go.
And that was a great goal as well. And that's interesting. I haven't seen someone probably so, well, I wouldn't say dictatorial, but bossy, I guess is the word, in pointing players out since Drogba left.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you need to be there, and you need to be there. I don't know. Do you think, would Asante do better if he was just a pure striker and was being bossed around by Adam John, perhaps sitting behind him?
Not necessarily. I think everybody has their own leadership style. Whatever Asante is doing. Okay, I think there's a perfect example is in sports there's two types of leaders. And the perfect example is back in the 1980s and the early 90s when the San Francisco 49ers were winning all of their Super Bowls. They had Jerry Rice. And Jerry Rice was a guy who wasn't real vocal, but he just was known for working harder than anybody else on the field, and everybody on the team just admired and respected him so much he didn't have to say anything, they just followed his example. I think Solo is that kind of leader where
Right.
he is just so driven and, these guys want to go and battle with him. John, he's more of a guy, he's going to get up in your face, he's going to be yelling at you more like maybe a Michael Jordan, for instance.
Okay. Well, he's certainly got the height, so, he's got the bird's eye view, if you will.
Either way, well, I think it might be important to point out is I think our vice captain is actually Dia. So John probably got the armband just because Dia also wasn't on the field. But I guess I could be wrong about that. But yeah, let's talk about the goal, right? Heads up goal by John. Ball, he takes a deflection, after a cross, and was
it a cross or was it a shot?
It was a cross. It looked like he was trying to play it all the way to Calistri, I believe, was making that far post run, and the defender, got a little deflection on it. Drops to John, and he, if I remember correctly, just one times it.
Yeah,
side
it was
foot,
on the edge of the 18-yard box and just buried it.
Side foot into the corner, beat the keeper. No keeper stopping that. Great goal, and that gives us the 1-0 victory.
That's all we needed, really, especially with the defense that was playing as they were tonight. That was great stuff.
Right.
I'm looking forward to my free car wash tomorrow. Thank you, Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man. When you're on a run like this, not every game's going to be 4-0 or 4-2. You need these 1-0, squeak it out kind of victories, and especially on the road in a place like Vegas where hasn't really been kind to us. Last year we went to Vegas and lost 5-2, I believe. And so, that weighs on you as a player, and now to come out 1-0 is awesome.
There's one stat. Oh, by the way, Phil, I've got a new nickname for you. Phil Stat King Kennedy. And you read stats like no one I've ever met. But there's one stat that I was really super surprised about. Okay. So they were playing at Cashman Field, which apparently Phil was telling me was an old baseball field, which is no longer in use. There was 5,100 people there tonight. Can you believe that?
I can't believe it. It did not look like that many.
It did not at all. But here's the thing. I guess it's a bigger stadium. It certainly rattled around like a pea in a barrel there at times, But
I think that stadium holds like 25,000.
Yeah, man. That's okay. I certainly have a renewed affection for a smaller ground that can pack it out and make noise because, it doesn't matter how much noise you make in there. Even if we had our sellout crowds there, 10,000, let's just say, it's only half full. That's going to be miserable. What a miserable experience.
Yeah.
Sucked in Vegas.
Okay, I guess it's 12,500 is what it says today. It holds 9,300 seated and then 12,500 including the grass. I guess is a little less than half full tonight. That sounds about right.
Yeah, it looked pretty miserable. It didn't matter how much the hype guy hyped it up.
But this is a Wednesday night too.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Miserable for them because they lost.
Yeah, boo friggity who, you wankers. Right.
So,
are we?
yeah,
Yes.
I think maybe just to close out this discussion on Phoenix versus Las Vegas Lights that took place today, I just want to point out a tweet sent out by U.S. men's national team legend Eric Winalda on August 27th, in response to our victory tweet over defeating Tacoma Defiance 4-2 at home. Eric Winalda wrote, "You are on our schedule." And Eric, if you're listening, we were, and we came, and we beat you. Have a good one.
See you later. No, mate. So we're done with Vegas. Cool. That's the end of that. So that's what have we done? 2/3 of the Four Corners Cup. I think we've got New Mexico coming up, but on the weekend we do have Galaxy 2, Los Dos. They're not going to ruin our run, are they? That's going to be 20.
I think so, man. Especially at home. Saturday night at home, sold out stadium. The South End jumping as always against a Galaxy 2 side that's hit or miss. They're sitting on 39 points, 7th place, but you go back and we beat them 3-2 there. That was their last loss.
Mm-hmm.
They drew with New Mexico. They've been on a pretty good run, but I don't see them going, especially with LA Galaxy trying to push for the playoffs. They're not going to be letting some of their players drop down and play for their USL side. So
not a chance.
I think did you say Los Dos?
Yes.
Is that what they had in Mexico before Windows came out?
I've got no idea what you're talking about.
It's Los Dos, but you said Los Dos. DOS is Disk Operating System, which is what Microsoft had before Windows came out.
I thought you were talking about curtains or something else. Yeah. Hey, you know what? After all the shit I've given you about the pronunciation of English teams, I'm quite happy to be
but anyway, they're giving out some pretty cool pint glasses on Saturday night. I've seen too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be there at 5 p.m. I'm going to be first.
It's kind of Sugar Skull night. They're coming out with those pint glasses with Sugar Skulls. They just released a bunch of new Sugar Skull merchandise, so it'll be a good night. Victory number 20. I'm going to lock it in right now. And I think what we talked about this on the last pod. I think it goes to 21. I think we beat Los Dos. I think we beat Fresno away. And I think New Mexico at home is where this streak comes to an end with a draw.
Yeah, cool. You know what? I'm going to make one of my most famous calls of all time. And you're going to go and see a Phoenix Rising team will go the rest of the season undefeated. And we're going to end up with 86 points at the end of the regular season. And we're going to go all the way through the championship match and win that too. I have confidence in this team. I after tonight's game and seeing the competition for places and seeing, that wasn't a second string side out there tonight. That was Phoenix Rising A, if you know what I mean. Like, that was just an alternative version of Phoenix Rising. They could have whooped Austin tonight 5-0 by themselves, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm actually really, really happy.
Well, you look at some of those guys that we call quote-unquote backups. They're starting on other teams in the USL. Joey Calistri is starting on other teams in the USL. Mala starting on other teams in the USL. Bjornathan, Ledbetter. All those guys are starting on other teams in the USL, and we have depth. Yeah. We have depth, and it just gets. Exactly. Dumbuya's coming back. He just arrived back in Phoenix from Sierra Leone after 25 hours of travel.
Pretty remarkable.
Look at guys that didn't even make it in. Corey Whelan, Liverpool academy product, right? And he's on the bench. AJ Cochran on the bench. We got depth,
Yes.
and we're going to make a run. And I'm with you, man. I think we definitely win the championship this year at home, of course. And I don't know about you guys, but I have opted in for the full playoff package, so I will be at every home playoff game.
Oh, damn, I might have to do that thing myself.
Not only are we going to New Hampshire, we're going to South Carolina and Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota, New Mexico. We're going to California and Texas and New York. We're going to South Dakota, Oregon and Washington and Michigan. Yeah!
Chicago. You got a full tank of gas, half pack of cigarettes, and it's dark. And we're going to smash them all. I don't know what that reference was, Phil.
Somebody will get it. Somebody will get it. Somebody out there will get it.
All right, no worries. Yes, we're going to smash them all. Right, I feel like it's quite late here. This is after the Phoenix Rising game on a Wednesday night. It's about 10:30. We do need to probably move on a little bit from Phoenix Rising because as fascinating as it is, and as exciting as it is, and you know what? We're even picking up media coverage in Australia once James Polson, my mate, decides to go and write it for the Sydney Morning Herald. You prick, write it. We need to move on to other things as well, namely our Team of the Month. So our Team of the Month, for those that recall from last week's episode, is Wolverhampton Wanderers, or the Wolves, not the Wolverhampton Wanderers. And they're playing Chelsea this week. Now, you mentioned that, Matt, last week, that, you know, they're doing okay. Wolves, they're not getting out of their skin. They've had a bit of a tough run. And they're against the Chelsea side that probably isn't quite playing out of their skins right now. So I'm going to turn it over to you. How do you see this going?
I mean, this is kind of one of those games. It's kind of interesting. It's Wolves away. You know, Wolves are playing at home, where last year they were great at home. You know, they're sitting on 3 points out of 4 games. So really not the best, start to the year. No wins, 3 draws. But Chelsea has had a rough start to the season as well. You know, we got a lot of injuries. We have a lot of youngsters in the team. And so my gut is that we're going to see Conte back on Saturday with Rudiger, which I think is going to help solidify that defense. You know, realistically, I'm looking at maybe a 1-1 draw.
Okay, that was very honest. I would say the same as well, honestly. I think that's going to be actually quite a good game. I'm looking forward to watching that, even though I'm, the participant, not the participant. That's not right. What did I say? The neutral, thank you. Even though I'm the neutral, I'm looking forward to watching this game because I think it's fascinating, let's just say. For the narrative of the game, it's going to be fascinating.
Raul Jimenez, it's Christian Pulisic. It's the Premier League on NBC.
I don't know what you're talking about tonight.
It's too late, man. We gotta put an end to this before we go off the rails here.
Oh wait, you're talking about the coverage on NBC here. Oh man, that's probably at the whim of the local network here, who may or may not cover the Cardinals.
Oh, they always cover the fucking Cardinal.
Yeah. When is that Across the Gridiron coming out? Because I've got so much shit to talk about that.
About 4 weeks is when I talked to Ross about recording the first episode. So about four weeks away.
Right on. All right. Yeah, well, that'll be great. So Cardinals will be down. What did I say? 5-11. So we'll be.
Well, they got a draw.
1-5 by then. 1-3 by then. Yeah. It's good. It's good. We digress. Do we have news across the pitch news desk? I saw some fascinating things the other day, Phil, about how Man City is the very first billionaire club in Europe. By the way, that's euros, so I don't know what that translates over to here. Probably, I don't know, $1.20.
90 cents. A dollar, a euro is a dollar is 90% of a euro.
All right.
So basically, if you had $1 billion, it would be 900 million euros.
Right. So, all right, whatever that works out to be, $890 million worth of football.
Since it's euros, it would be 10% more. It would be $110 billion.
Wait, no, that's the other way, isn't it? Hang on. Oh, God, I'm rubbish at currency. You'd think I'd be great at this. Because,
no. Because a dollar is worth 90% of a euro.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yes. So, yeah, all right. So, $1.1 billion. There we go, $1.1 billion. Okay. Wow, that's pretty impressive. You might have had a few things to say about Man City in the past. And I'm sure this probably doesn't help the situation by any means. But Phil, the news across the pitch news desk is how much are the Cowboys worth?
Well, they're worth $5 billion, but see, those are two different things. There's franchise worth, and then there's player salary. So what they're saying is that Man City is the first team to commit $1 billion to player salary. American sports are completely different anyway, because the amount that American sports teams, at least in the NFL, can spend, there's a salary ceiling, and that's based on the amount of TV money. So they're never going to spend more than they're making, because it's against the rules for them to. Man City, on the other hand, by putting out $1 billion in player salary, sure, you might have a team like Liverpool who can kind of come close to competing with that kind of money, or Manchester United. But then once you get beyond that, where that really starts to trickle down and hurt is why you end up having situations like your Berries.
No, wait. Don't go there, because that was not where I was going with my across the pitch news desk. Yes, you're right. I 100% agree with you, Phil. But what I was going to say is that was some lovely mental gymnastics that you worked there. But being a Cowboys fan, you're still a glory supporter. So boo. And on that bombshell, I don't think I'll be invited back. I was just giving you shit, mate.
Oh, it's all good.
But you're right, there is an equity in the Football League, but that's for another night, I believe. It's almost approaching 11 o'clock here. I think it's time for us to sign off, eh?
You have anything else,
good,
Mr.
guys.
Wizard?
It was great talking this 19th victory with you boys.
Yes, indeed.
It really feels good to just turn on and watch your team win every week. I can't, this season, it's just, I think when you go through your life, every sports team that you have, maybe you kind of have a favorite season that you'll always remember. And I don't think there's any doubt that this is that season for Phoenix Rising fans.
No, man. No, I don't. And, it's so odd for me as a football fan, or a sport fan in general. I usually support rubbish teams. It's actually... I can't quite place my emotions with this, because, you, as I said to you last week, Matt, you hope for the best but expect the worst. But following Rising, it's almost like I don't see the worst. I don't see this happening. And you know what? It's going to be a crushing defeat when it happens, but I don't see it happening this season. It's a bizarre, I don't know, brain explosion in my sporting head. I mean, I don't think I've seen this since 1996 Australian Ashes. When we absolutely wiped the floor with England, that we knew we were going to win. And this doesn't happen too often in sports. And I am loving the fuck, excuse my language, out of this season. And I can't, I never want this to end.
Well, let's be real. Let's be honest, though, 19 wins in a row is awesome, but I would trade that in a heartbeat to lift USL Cup.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to is if they lose, they lose. That loss just needs to come before the playoffs.
Yeah, you're right, Matt. You know, that's a common refrain in sports, isn't it? You know, the more you win, the closer you are to your next loss. Yeah, okay. All right. I'm still confident in my call. We're going to go through the rest of the season undefeated. Undefeated, not necessarily winning it all, but we're undefeated.
I'm not going to say anything other than I'll keep predicting each game the day before it happens, or the day of. About 5 hours to game time is kind of what I've been. My schedule now is I usually try to get up my preview right about 5 hours to game time.
And if you're not reading those reports, you really need to. You can read those reports on acrossthepitch.com/blogs, generally written by Phil Stat King Kennedy over there. And I tell you what, he hasn't been far wrong, apart from last week when he called it, what was it, 3-1? Yeah, well, that's okay.
Well, I'll tell you, the score predictions, those are kind of for entertainment purposes, but I have not been one of the people who has tried to pick the game that we're going to lose. So I just keep picking the Rising and keeps working out. And if you had followed my gambling advice, then you won 36 cents for every dollar you bet today. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody for listening as always, and thank you for joining me. My co-host, my brother from down under,
Phil Stat King Kennedy over there,
and Mr. Wizard.
Yeah, you guys have a good one. It was great talking with you again.
Have a great one, guys.
Have a great one.